just over the past 10 years in capital. We serve, of course, southwestern Ontario region. So within an hour drive of the airport, there's over 2.5 million people residing, and that's the main area that we're trying to pull passengers from. We have over 1,500 employees now working at the airport and generate about 625 million in economic impact on an annual basis. And we're trying to build the airport into an aerospace hub. I regularly refer to it as an aerotropolis, so almost a mini city in a city, and try and not just focus on passenger growth, but cargo growth, academia, trying to build the largest aviation aerospace hub in the country and use that to attract more business and industry to our airport. If you look at the next slide, we've got lots of land at the airport. So we have over 1,500 acres of land, 2 runways. We're capable of landing any type of aircraft that is built in the world today. We are one of the designated landing spots for a B-52 bomber, should that ever be required. We've got the runway strength and length in order to land those aircraft. We have instrument approaches on all the runways, so we can land in any weather conditions, 24-hour operations, no curfews, no noise restrictions. We have air traffic control, and NAV Canada Flight Information Center for the entire region of Ontario is based at our airport. We have a full service firefighting capability at the airport, so we have our own firefighting staff at the airport that can handle any type of aircraft, and we have 24/7 customs and border security at the airport. When I came in, developed a new strategic plan with a vision to aggressively develop the London International Airport into Southwestern Ontario's premier aviation center. And by doing that, our mission is to aggressively contribute to driving the region's economic prosperity through the relentless pursuit of aviation, academia, training, and commercial development while focusing on first-class customer service. And you can see our core values, which I won't read to you today. I just wanted to highlight some of the strategic initiatives and give you an update on some of the projects that we're working on at the airport. So first and foremost is, increased in airline passenger growth with more carriers, more destinations, and more passengers. Obviously, the COVID pandemic was extremely challenging for all airports across the country, and a lot of the regional airports are still in recovery mode from the pandemic. At its peak, London served 683,000 passengers in 2019. And just last year, we were still only at 350,000 with a goal to surpass 400,000 this year. And the main reasons driving the slow route back is a major pilot shortage combined with airplane issues, mainly from Boeing, that I'm sure some of you have read about in the media. And there's also some engine issues affecting the industry as well. But the main issue right now is pilot shortages. And of course, what we're trying to build up with Fanshawe College and Western University is more aviation education and training to support airline growth. We're also focused on cargo growth, so moving more goods and services through our airport. Obviously, with the addition of the Amazon warehouse on the old Fort Telletville plant is driving a lot more movement of goods in this area. You know, those packages that you order on Prime and that are at your door the next day. They're all moving by air, and we want them to start moving through our airport. So that's a focus of ours as well. We're also focused on land development, as mentioned, 1,500 acres of land, and an opportunity to not just focus on aviation development with new hangars, new maintenance businesses. The picture on the bottom right there is the new private jet facility that has just broken ground and will open in March of 2025. So that is what's called a fixed base operator. So non-commercial service will use that airport, whether it be for charter flying, private aviation. We move a lot of medical supplies through the airport, organ transfers, patient transfers. Of course, we're a base for Orange Helicopter as well. So a lot of the medevac work in the area is coming out of our airport. But also focusing on non-aeronautical revenue. So trying to diversify away from just focusing on aviation revenue, which tends to be fairly cyclical. And when you have pandemics or the global financial crisis was the last big shock to the aviation industry in 2009. It tends to cycle, every 7 to 10 years in a downtrend. So having non-aeronautical revenue to rely on, it will be crucial to our long-term success. We're also working with Fanshawe College, Western University, and Thames Valley District High School to build up Canada's premier aerospace campus and hub. The goal is to continue to build up the existing programs at Western and Fanshawe, but to expand the offerings to include aerospace engineering, space operations, satellite technologies, aircraft mechanics, flight services. Right now, Fanshawe College is the fastest growing aviation college in the country. And Western has opportunities to build more facilities at the airport and really take advantage of that. Also in September, we'll be launching the first full year high school aviation program with Thames Valley. So all 27 high schools in the Thames Valley District School Board will have the ability to come to the airport every day and take all of their classes, all of which will come through an aviation lens. So you may study math or science, but it'll be through an aviation lens. We're also focused on revenue diversification that fits in with the campus hub model with recreational facilities. So we've announced a new 25,000 square foot beach volleyball facility that has broken ground and will open January 1st, 2025, which will include a restaurant, lounge, bar area. And there's several other recreational opportunities. We see, growing population in the region with not a lot of comparable growth in recreation facilities. So we're seeing that as a complement to the airport from a diversification of revenue perspective, but also to give back to the community, to have this hub feel, this aerotropolis where you have other reasons to come to the airport other than just to get on an airplane and fly away. And last but not least, we're also looking to be the first Canadian airport that reaches the target of net zero. So right now we're looking at a solar parkade that when constructed would have the ability to take the airport off grid and rely completely on solar electricity to power not just the airport terminal, but also all the airside and groundside lighting that the airport has to function for the runways. And one of the biggest things that's near and dear to my heart is our community. Again, not just London, but surrounding southwestern Ontario and all the municipalities in the region. And giving back and hosting events and raising money for charities. So Airshow London is probably the one you're most familiar with every September. Always giving back to local charities through that organization. It just won for the third year in a row, Best Airshow in North America, as voted by USA Today. We've also opened some free recreational facilities, including pickleball court, beach volleyball court, outdoor skating, and a plane spotting park that we're hoping to expand on in the future. And we've done a number of other events. Jordan's Run the Runways now raised over $1 million for YMCA's Camp Queen Elizabeth. We did a drive-in movie last year for Children's Health Foundation. We're always raising money for various charities. So when you see opportunities to come and support the airport with some of our charitable events, please take the time and come out. It's always a great time and raises money for good causes. And that is it from my side. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them. And if not, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Scott. That's really exciting news. Just a question on what's attributing the problem with the pilot shortage? Is it wages? Is it?
No, it's a combination. So for over 20 years, there's been a forecasted pilot shortage that's been looming when the baby boomers get to retirement age. And what happened with the pandemic, it really exacerbated the situation because a lot of the airlines had to react financially because they're publicly traded, and they furloughed and packaged out a lot of senior captains. So pretty much anyone over the age of 60, there's a mandatory retirement age as an airline pilot at 65, you have to retire. So most airlines packaged people between the age of 60 and 65 out and took them out of the labor pool. And now demand has come back, and the shortage that they were forecasting is far greater because of that issue.
Thank you. So any questions from the members of council or any comments? Councillor Crockett?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have a question. I just want to say that this is pretty exciting. My grandmother, who was born in 1927's favorite restaurant is Katana Cafe. Okay. So we bring my 3-year-old son and get to watch the airplane. So he's pretty thrilled about it. And that you had cornhole in the lobby when we went to Mexico out of London. But thanks for the presentation. I think that you know, when you go to an airport, you're usually only there to travel, and recognizing that there's a lot of other opportunities to head down the road, is really great to see. So thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else from council? Councillor Heeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I grew up by the airport. And it's definitely changed over the years. And it's good to see the planes flying again quite often. My son as well, he loves seeing the planes. And yeah, we can see one about every 5 minutes, so it's pretty good, pretty cool. Just on the recreation front, I know that's something like we invest in recreation services as well, so it's just good to know that there's other options being available to the community and you know, right in the middle of the township. So that's a benefit to all of our residents as well. And I was just wondering on your site where you're thinking of putting the volleyball court.
So the volleyball facility is on the corner of Crumlin Side Road and Robbins Hill Road, in that industrial park area. So most of the recreation that we're looking at will be located right there. We are in discussion with a large soccer facility, something similar to the size of BMO, that would probably be located in a different area, but easily accessible for your municipality. And I think will be a great offering for both, you know, Thamesville, Thorndale, Thamesford, Dorchester, and the East End of London. There's not a lot of recreation in the East End of London either. So I think having some more options out in that area will be beneficial to everyone.
Thanks, Scott. Has business travel come back?
It has not come back to the level that it has, but there is encouraging signs. So it's mainly been led by leisure travel. And you've seen huge demand for leisure travel. Business is slowly coming back, but it's still not where it was pre-pandemic. And, you know, there's still question, will it ever get back to that level because of some technology options that are available that prevent some people from doing some business travel. But the forecast is looking better than expected right now for recovery. And they're forecasting that by the end of 2025, that business travel will be back to pre-pandemic levels.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. I see Councillor Lockie has her hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, through your worship. I'm just curious, is there any plan to have more routes? Like I know in the past they had like a route from London to Chicago. Is there any plans to try to bring those back?
Yeah, we're in discussions with all airlines, including United, on bringing back the Chicago service. It will take a bit of time just because of the pilot shortage. Right now, they're still not even back to serving the communities that they served pre-pandemic. So, you know, forecast would probably be in the 2026 to 2027 region when we get over this bubble of pilot shortages. But it's certainly on our radar and looking for options, not just with direct nonstop destinations, but also good hub connections through, you know, places like Chicago or through Vancouver to access Asia or through Montreal for Europe and items like that.
Thank you.
Direct to Columbus.
That'd be great.
Work on it.
No selfish requests here.
No, that's right.
Is that it, Councillor? Oh, Councillor-
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just another kind of random question. I know one of the community initiatives the council or Thames Center has helped sponsor is a robotics program at Lord Dorchester. And I know that UAVs are an emerging technology, and just wondering if you're seeing any crossover. I know commercial ones do have to report to the aerodrome. Is that something that you're factoring into any future scenarios?
Yeah, so we're working with Nav Canada on that. Fanshawe has a remote piloted aircraft systems course. So they do a 1-year diploma program in drone technology. And of course, they're, you know, drones are being used for a number of purposes, including construction and land development, farming, of course. So we see it as a big growth opportunity. And I mean, quite frankly, eventually, I'm sure maybe not in my lifetime, but in someone's lifetime, you're gonna see the aircraft, commercial aircraft go unmanned as well at some point. So yeah, it is an area of growth. If there's opportunity to partner in with some of the things we're doing with Thames Valley, because their robotics is a key piece of that. And if there's any opportunities to connect, I'd welcome that and try and work them into the hub. Because with the high school, we're also looking at building a STEM center there where a variety of students could come and take STEM related courses. So it could be a good fit in that regard.
Thanks, Scott. It's all good news. Anything else from council? Well, in that particular case, Scott, thank you very much for coming here tonight and telling us about your plans. And at this time, I'm asking council for a mover and a seconder that the presentation regarding updates on the London International Airport be as presented by the President and CEO of London International Airport be received for information. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Scott. The next one that was on the agenda is we've been advised that the delegation had be removed from tonight's agenda and will be rescheduled at a later date. So we'd like to move on to item 6.3, the cylinder exchange vending machine overview. Brad Rice from Sleeger's Engineered Products.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
I'm sorry, so I can't hear the presentation.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
So, Her Worship, members of council, administration, and interested parties, thank you for the opportunity to share our proposal. My name is Brad Rice, and I'm the Director of Business Development for Sleeger's Engineered Products. I'd like to take you through a few slides, give you a little bit of context, and then share a few more details after the slides. And certainly at any point, happy to answer any questions that you might have. So we manufacture a kiosk that's robotic and fully automated that dispenses 20-pound cylinders and allows you to dispense 24/7, is designed for an exchange or a purchase. And the transaction is incredibly easy. Google Pay, Apple Pay, debit and credit as well. Next slide.
The self-serve propane kiosk provides customers with a simplified purchase experience available 24/7 at their convenience. The customer can make a purchase or exchange using store-generated codes or using the PIN pad with credit or debit card payment options. When a purchase is selected and the payment is authorized, a locker door will open to your ready-to-go tank. When the door is closed, the transaction is completed. The self-serve kiosk makes it just as simple to exchange a used tank. When exchange is selected and payment is authorized, a cylinder door will open to a vacant space. Place your empty cylinder in the unit and close the door. Once the door is closed, another locked door will open with a ready-to-go tank. It's that simple to purchase or exchange a tank with a self-serve propane kiosk. There are many features and benefits to using a kiosk. The language can be changed using the function key on the PIN pad or by selecting the language on the touch screen if equipped. The touch screen can be customized with advertising and promotions. The front and side panels can be used for corporate branding, company logos, or promotional advertisements. 3 additional servant kiosks can be linked to the host unit to expand the capacity to 96 cylinders.
So that gives you a pretty good overview of how the machine works. It holds 24 cylinders. We only fill it to 22. And the rationale for that is that it is AODA compliant and also needs a place for an exchange. So As soon as you action the machine, it'll say to you, can you reach the top door? And if you can't reach the top door, it vents from lower doors. The touchscreen and the keypad and all the dynamics of the machine are at a height that meet those requirements. It's only 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet by 6.5 feet high. Plugs into a standard outlet. All of the transactioning would happen by cellular, and everything is secure as it relates to payment processing. As you saw earlier, one host, you can daisy chain additional servants to the host if there was a requirement. What I'm asking for today is basically just one machine in 2 different locations. The web-based technology that goes with the kiosk is an essential part. It's a portal. And so we're monitoring the consumptions, when the machine needs to be filled, if it's healthy, if there's any challenges that come with what's happening. We're able to see all of that remotely and action accordingly. That's just a shot of our manufacturing facility. Very proud of its cleanliness, of its lighting, how we exchange our air. I'll have you just stay there for a minute if we could. So we have over 8,000 robotic 20-pound cylinder exchange kiosks in market in the United States and over 250 in Canada that are typically being distributed through propane companies that own the machines and that are vending at the likes of Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, Wawa Convenience, and Sam's Clubs. We're launching our own branding in London and in the surrounding area, branded to My Propane Buddy, and we're seeking locations to do joint venture sales. I understand that council is in receipt of a report from administration, and I'd like to highlight a few key items to provide you with some comfort and some clarity. Our kiosk is Class 1 Division 2 certified. That means the electrical systems of the machine have been evaluated and tested in accordance with electrical safety standards for the propane application, and the machine operations and installations meet the gas safety code. The payment device on the machine is fully PCI compliant, does not hold any personal information, is purely a gateway to the bank, and does not accept cash. Sleekers undertakes all the aspects of the municipal and TSSA related approvals as a requirement prior to site location installations. Thames Center administration is also in receipt of a sample insurance certificate that shows that the municipality is noted as an additional insured party on our policy. Sleekers is responsible for all setup costs associated with the project. Sleekers and our partner-owned company, EdPro Energy, are responsible for the filling, the monitoring, the ongoing maintenance of the technology at no cost to you. If after the trial phase, either or both of us agree not to continue, the kiosks are removed and the sites are returned to their pre-installation conditions. We're seeking the opportunity to place one kiosk in Dorchester and one in Thorndale, both based on the preferred locations established by Thames Center staff. And I thank you for listening. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councillor Lockie, I see you.
Yes, thanks to your worship. So I'm guessing, Mr. Rice, you're probably aware that anytime I go to cook a hamburger late at night, there's never any gas because somebody leaves it on. So I really love the convenience of this.
Good.
Do we know the locations? Like, was there any in mind?
I have had discussions with administration and with staff. If I might go through her worship to staff.
Certainly, you go ahead.
Yeah, your worship, just realized this wasn't shown in, just realized this afternoon this was not shown on the report or the presentation. So Shannon's just going to pull up on the screen there the 2 locations we have in mind. So the top image is the entrance to the Flight Exec Center. And if I don't know if you can zoom in on that top one a bit, Shannon. So just behind, there's the digital sign we have, billboard for the Flight Exec, which you can see to the left of the red oval. The red oval is roughly where the unit would go for that parking lot, which would, take up 1 parking space. And then below that, we didn't have a current satellite image for the Thorndale Lions Community Center since the new build. So instead, I just took a photo there, and to the right of that door. So that's a side exit door the front exit door from the auditorium. And right to the right of that, there is off of the sidewalk, there's hydro right there, and that side of the building already has two large HVAC units. Whereas again, the propane buddy is a much smaller little clean unit, so that would be an ideal place for that.
For
Thank you.
Thorndale, would it take up any parking? Like I see the Ball Diamond in Dorchester, there's lots of spots, but it's a little bit more limited here. The Lions Center. Would that be a concern at all?
Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, was that with regards to parking, Counselor?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that's a green space right now, so it's just a little side of the building, so there'd be no concerns. And I also reached out to the Thorndale Ag Society just to confirm that they have no future plans for using that space with regards to their fairs. I didn't tell them what it was in regards to, but just that we're exploring a possibility, and they were quick to get back to me and say they had no concerns with the municipality doing something in that small space.
Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Lockie. Anyone else from council with questions? Just one, is there a little bit of infrastructure? Is there any cement paths or anything that they sit on?
Yeah, so in terms of the location at the ballpark, we would basically put it on a patio, like on patio stones, elevate them so that moisture doesn't get trapped underneath the machine. In terms of Thorndale, that's a little bit more. We would be excavating a small amount of grass, putting down chip and dust, putting patio stones down. But again, no more than a 5x5 spot would be required for us to do that there.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Sounds like a very convenient thing, and I did appreciate the tour when you invited us over. It's quite an amazing operation.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions then from council, I'd like a mover and a seconder that the cylinder exchange vending machine overview as presented by Brad Rice Sleeker's Engineered Products, Inc. be received for information. Councillor Lockie, moving, and seconder, Councillor Heeman, all in favor? And that carries. And then with council's permission, for consensus, if we could move on to agenda item 10.1, CS-012-24, unsolicited proposal from Sleegers. It's appended to your agenda. Director McDonald, you have something to say on this particular one?
Yes,
Go
thank you
ahead.
through you, your worship. Not too much to add beyond what Mr. Rice has already shared with council, just a couple of items. So firstly, that the fire department, planning and development, and our insurance broker have all been consulted on this potential agreement to ensure that any concerns and all matters have been taken into account. Secondly, the amount being proposed for rental is $1,000 per location for the 12-month trial period. So that'd be $2,000 in total. With that price being fair and comparable in comparison to the price we're charging Rogers for their 5G tower beside the Flight Exec Center. Next, should council support this request, we would ensure before the agreement is finalized that any zoning matters have been taken care of, all insurance-related requirements are met. The TSSA certification would be done right away by Sleegers, and all safety measures by the municipality have been put into place. And then as well, in the report, you'll see there where I've mapped out the various details that would be included in the agreement just to make sure that everything is accounted for. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Mr. McDonald. Any questions from council going forward? Okay, then mover and a seconder for the suggested motion on your agenda. That report number CS-012-24 be received for information, and that council consider the proposal from Sleegers and direct staff on any next steps. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Great, that passes. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, just through you, your worship. I just wanted to make sure with Director McDonald, is that enough that you need to move forward with this recommended motion?
Do you want me to read it again, Steve? Okay, that report number CS-012-24 be received for information and that council consider the proposal from Slagers and direct staff on any next steps.
Do you want to add in that we want to move forward with the annual agreement? Can we add that? And then it likely
Okay.
doesn't have to come back.
So a slight amendment to the motion. I'll wait for the clerk and she can give us the right language.
Because you have so far to come back. so.
Councillor Heeman.
Just while we're waiting, I think this is very interesting proposal in providing a service to the community and, you know, as chair of the Economic Development Committee, this is local business and, you know, it's interesting to be able to entertain these kinds of partnerships. So thank you to Mr. Rice and to
Thanks,
staff for working together on this.
Thank you.
So through you, your worship, if the mover and seconder is okay with this amendment, that report number CS-012-24 be received for information and that staff be directed to develop a draft agreement to be considered through bylaw at a future meeting of council.
Councillor Heeman?
As a mover, I would be in agreement with
You're
that.
fine with that? Okay.
You're good.
Yes.
So
Okay.
through your worship, just that the report be received and that staff be directed to move forward with entering into this agreement.
Okay. All right. So is everyone good with this one? Okay, as amended. All right, then that carries. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Brad.
very much.
Good to see you again. So the next presentation before us is the Fire Master Plan and Community Risk Assessment. And we have two guests with us, Blaine Lucas, who is here in person, and Richard Boyce, I believe, is joining virtually from 308 Consulting. So I'll let you go ahead just whenever you're ready. Red button in the middle of your microphone.
Your worship, if I may present to you and members of council, Mr. Blaine Lucas from 308 CSG Consultant and Strategies Group. And he will be joined by Mr. Richard Boyce online, who is also a consultant with Mr. Lucas. And they have prepared our community risk assessment and fire master plan for your perusal and adoption.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. So good evening, Mayor McMillan and members of council. Thank you so much, Chief, for the introduction. So in attendance with me tonight, as we spoke, is Richard Boyce. Richard is joining us virtually. So Richard is, I'm just going to give him a little chat him up, so he'll probably be hiding from the Zoom call. But Richard is an internationally experienced fire service professional who previously functioned as the Chief Operating Officer and the Executive Director of the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs. He is the President of Emergency Service Strategy and Solutions Incorporated and was responsible for the quality assurance and the peer review component of our project. So before we get started, I just would like to thank CAO David Barrick, Chief Nick Dorkin, and the senior leadership of the municipality for all their support over the previous few months that brought us to this evening and the presentation of our project. Also want to start with acknowledging the firefighters from the municipality of Thames Center for their feedback and participation in the process. They welcomed me to their department with open arms, and their dedication to their profession and to the community was obvious from the very first conversation. So it's a privilege tonight to present the community risk profile and the master fire plan for the municipality of Thames Center. And it was developed So we started with the community risk profile, and that led into the development of the master fire plan. So as a result of our review, the community risk profile has 14 associated recommendations, and there are 17 from the master fire plan. So I'm going to start with going through the master fire plan first, and we structured the presentation to discuss the community risk profile at the very end. So, I just wanted to let members of council, the mayor and member of council know that this presentation serves as an information report, and it's based on the independent assessment of our corporation and our work of our two firms. I want to confirm that the motion to accept the community risk profile and the fire master plan does not bind the municipality to accepting any or all of the recommendations. And it is basically the result of our professional assessment and brought forward for your consideration. As consultants and authors of the reports, it is our recommendation that Chief Nick Dorkin in development implementation plan to be reviewed by the Chief Administrative Officer and have this, the Chief Administrative Officer determine if the implementation plan is appropriate to bring it back to council at a later date. So slide number 1, as we go through, I just want to quickly go over a little bit about the legislation. So we can move forward on to slide number 2. I also just wanted to mention that our firm, 308 Consulting and Strategy Group, we review all projects from a fiscally responsible perspective. We want to make sure that the first component we look at is making sure that we're safe for the community, but we're also very aware of the current fiscal climate and the responsibilities of the local municipality as far as providing good value for money. So when we took a look at the recommendation, we made sure that we reviewed every opportunity for cost savings if there was. Okay. So the master fire plan was prepared to allow the municipality to integrate into your annual planning process associated with your budgetary process, your official plans, and your strategic plans for implementation within different departments. And we also wanted to make sure that we focus on the health and safety of the residents, the businesses, and the visitors to the municipality. Our goal is to create a roadmap for future improvements in fire prevention, public education, and emergency response. And we're working from the understanding and our analysis that the municipality of Thames Centre is an agricultural-based community with growing urban centers in Dorchester and Thorndale, and based on the 2021 census of 13,980 residents. And also seeing that there's a growth in the number of residents in your municipality. So we can move ahead. Alrighty. So sorry. Yeah, there we go. First piece I'm going to go back one. Apologize for that. Alrighty, so as far as the slide 4, I'm just going to talk a little bit about legislation and the foundation for our project. So according to the Ontario Fire Protection and Prevention Act, Section 2(1), municipalities are required to establish a program that includes public education on fire safety and various components on fire prevention. It also mandates providing our fire protection services that are deemed necessary based on the community needs. Section 2(2) and Section 5 of the Act gives municipalities the authority to establish a fire department. This means that the municipalities have the flexibility to create and maintain their own fire services. Moreover, Section 2(3) allows municipalities to determine the form and content of their own fire departments and how they deliver these services. That provided us the ability to tailor your fire service or your fire protection service to meet the needs of your local municipality. So in response to the legislative requirements, the municipality of Thames Centre adopted bylaw 15-2015 on February 18th of 2015. And the bylaw formally established, maintains, and that you would establish, maintain, and operate a fire department under the direction of council. The legislative framework ensured that you have a robust system in place to meet the fire safety and protection needs of the community. So I'm on slide 5, other influencing factors. So based on the assessment, our team provided 14 recommendations related to the community risk profile and 17 recommendations based on the master fire plan. The plan is based on the Ontario Fire Protection and Prevention Act, which mandates municipalities to establish fire education and prevention programs. It also aligns with the National Fire Protection Association standards and the Fire Underwriter Survey, which influences insurance rates. We can move forward. I'm getting in the groove now, Mayor McMillan, so. All righty, the consultation. So during the course of our project, we had extensive consultation, including interviews with Fire Chief Dorkin, the 2 district fire chiefs, CAO Barrick, and we were very pleased to announce that we achieved a 91% participation rate in our firefighter survey, ensuring compliance, comprehensive understanding of the current operational needs based on their feedback. And that 91% was based on the 95th confidence interval. So I did attend training nights at both stations and presented a presentation on our project, what we're looking to achieve, and shortly thereafter, we conducted the survey. So we are very pleased. It's one of the highest numbers we've seen as far as firefighter participation. So we thank them. We thank the firefighters for taking part and helping us out with getting their feedback. We can move on to slide number 8. All right, I just included this slide just to go over the current management structure of the fire service. So we have council, you have the office of the fire marshal, the CAO, you have Chief Dorkin looking after the 2 district chiefs, and then looking after the direct fire operations. So we could move forward now onto slide 9. And then a little bit more of a breakdown of the operational structure of the fire department. Breaks down between the different layers of fire leadership, right down to the care and control of the frontline firefighters. Okay, if we could move forward. So the municipality of Thames Centre must include public education in fire safety and fire prevention. And we were pleased to see that, I think we skipped over a slide, but anyways, we were pleased to see that the organization has put 4 primary committees in place for the fire service. One that focus on firefighter training, one focusing on public education, the third one looking at the truck and equipment committee, and the 4th focusing on health and wellness of the fire service. We can move forward now. I also just wanted to briefly touch on the incident command structure. So it starts with the firefighter, progresses to the acting captain, the captain, the deputy district chief, the district chief, and then accumulates with the fire chief, ensuring there's effective management and coordination at every level. Each role within the incident command structure has specific responsibilities, enabling efficient decision-making and resource allocation. The hierarchy assures that most experienced personnel, including the fire chief and the district chiefs, provide strategic oversight, while captains and acting captains manage on-scene operations supported by the firefighters. We could move forward now. Also just wanted to mention for members of council that the municipality of Middlesex Centre employs a fire prevention officer. The municipality of North Middlesex and the municipality of Thames Centre have an agreement in place for the utilization of the fire prevention officer for fire services. So the total inspections in 2023 were 69, The average over the previous 6 years, based on the data that we analyzed, was 80.6. So there's a current partnership in place with a neighboring municipality to provide fire prevention services. We can move forward. In previous years, the fire prevention and public safety programs were handled individually by each fire station, resulting in uncoordinated efforts in some parts. To address this, the fire chief established the Public Education Committee early this year, comprised of 6 firefighters, overseen by one of the leadership members of the fire service, certified in NFA 1035, fire and life safety educators. The committee is responsible for planning and developing community event participation and public education opportunities. They also research new public relations opportunities, post information about upcoming events, network with community stakeholders, and maintain regular communication with the public information officer to ensure effective and coordinated public education efforts. We could move forward. Just want to quickly go over the call volume. So the estimated call volume for 2023 was just shy of 300 calls. 70% of those calls were responded from the Dorchester station and 30% from Thorndale. If you move forward now. So when we looked at, we also wanted to demonstrate the calls per month to indicate consistency in the date. And from what the data shows, there was spikes around the period of October, November, December of each year. And based on the data over the course of those 6 years, it was fairly consistent. So if we move forward on to slide 16, which is the call history by the time of the day and day of the week. When we took a look at this data over the same period of 6 years and plotted out the information, it shows that there's a call. The calls that primarily occur between 9 in the morning and 7 at night. And the peak period volume is between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. We can move forward. Alrighty, on this chart here, we just have broken down the types of calls that are completed by the fire service. And the data was analyzed over the same period of 6 years. And the size was 1,574 incidents. So the highest response requirement is motor vehicle collisions and extrications, representing 25%. The second highest component is fire-related events, which was 20%. And then what we found through our data analysis was 27% of the calls were canceled. So if we move forward onto the next slide, just a representation of the calls. So the largest number is motor vehicle collisions, followed by fire incidents. We also found that the medical calls were fairly low volume. All right, we can move forward. And in this component here, we plotted out the call distribution. And what we were looking for was the response zone around each one of the fire stations. And what the information that we demonstrated here today, that the location of the fire stations are consistent with the volume of calls received. So we have the stations in the proper locations based on the historic call history. If we could move forward. Alrighty, now we're moving into the recommendations and our observations from the master fire plan. So our first recommendation is to review and amend the existing bylaw that was enacted in 2015 to reflect changes in provincial legislation and the departmental structure. And we're highlighting that we would estimate a fair completion date would be the fall of 2024. The second recommendation, I've highlighted this one in red because there's a number of recommendations that we put forward that we would consider a priority for the municipality. The second one is the fire department to review and update their standard operating procedures. And one of the reasons we found is there's differential, there was policies at Dorchester that didn't exist in Thorndale and vice versa. Some of the policies were incomplete. Some of them needed updating. We wanted to make sure that there's consistent policy application across the fire service. And In conversations with Chief Dorkin, we understand that he has taken that task on, and he was looking to have that completed within the first quarter, if not the second quarter of this year. All righty. Our third recommendation and observation was the response agreements. There are a variety of automatic and mutual aid and tiered response agreements involving the municipality of Thames Center Fire Service. We recommend that we do a quarterly review and analysis of the data associated with the response agreement around automatic aid, mutual aid, and tiered response to be established to determine the level of effort, the quality of performance measures, and provide an annual report to council. And those reports would be quarterly or annually based on the decision of the municipality. So moving on to our observation and recommendation number 4. The feedback from the firefighters during the survey, they were seeking improvements in communication. So we would recommend that the municipality consider providing a corporate email address to all the firefighters within the organization, and also make efforts to have them understand that they're part of the larger, broader organization. And also to ensure that we can drive direct communication from Chief Dorkin and his leadership team directly to the frontline firefighters. With that, they could also receive general news from the municipality and that they may not currently receive. And we also suggest that in consultation with Chief Dorkin, I understand this occurs, and from attending from the fire training nights, it was obvious a very open door policy within the municipality. The firefighters can come forward. We just recommend that you continue with that approach to make sure the firefighters can bring forth any ideas for improvement, any recommendations, or to seek guidance from the leadership team. We could move forward. All right, our observation number 5. So we're recommending that the fire service put in standardized and centralized electronic files for firefighter training information. Currently, the software that's used in the organization is not the current version. The personnel files seem to be, some are there, some are not. So there needs to be electronic filing of all the mandatory requirements and all the qualifications of all the firefighters within the organization. One of the things we recommend is the training committee put together, with the assistance of the training officers, take a look at the creation and input and centralizing that information so it's readily available whenever it is required. We believe that the volume of that project is not significant, so it could be completed by the fall of this year. If we could move forward now on to number 6. So one of our recommendations is we just suggest that the fire service continues to monitor attrition rates within the organization. The average years of service amongst the firefighters was 15.5. 25.5% of the firefighters have indicated they would retire over the course of the next 5 years. We also suggest that the fire department should maintain a threshold of 5 officers to 30 firefighters for a total of 35 personnel in Dorchester. And we're recommending a ratio of 5 officers to 20 firefighters for a total of 25 personnel in Thorndale. And in conversations with Chief Dorkin, I know he started a fire recruitment process earlier on this year to supplement some of the fire service staff. And we recommend going forward with the change in demographics of the fire workforce, that annually the chief would take a look at the attrition rates and then determine his staffing accordingly based on those ratios. We could move forward now on to recommendation number 7. So we've highlighted this one in red because it is a priority item for the municipality. The Thames Center Fire Department is legislatively mandated to certify all firefighters to the criteria specified in Ontario Regulation 343-22. And we recommend that the training officers, in consultation with the training committee and senior fire management, adopting training schedule to ensure that the mandated Ontario regulation for compliance by July 1st of 2026 and have that compliance and therefore the compliance completed by July 1st of 2028. And from my visits to the training nights, I understand that Chief Dorkin has the fire training curriculum well in hand, and they have a target to make sure that the training is completed and they're compliant with the regulatory requirements. We could move forward now into number 8. So the next observation and recommendation we had was around firefighter compensation. And during the course of our project, we understand that a consultant was retained to look at all compensation across the municipality. And since the beginning of our project until now, that process has been completed. So one of the things that we recommend is that council receive the ongoing salary review and make adjustments to the firefighters' compensation. And what we're recommending is it's based on your municipal comparators, right? Your fire services within the local area. And from what I understand, that was captured in the previous salary assessment that was conducted for the municipality. The second thing is we recommend moving away from a point system where the firefighters would receive a certain number of points for attendance at certain events and move towards compensation for hour worked. The last piece, I understand that there is the opportunity if the municipality decides if they wanted to move the firefighters onto a more frequent pay schedule every 2 weeks, like the rest of the municipal organization. But based on the feedback we received from the fire service, they prefer the current system where the compensation is once per year. So there's no additional work or cost for the municipality or increased workload as far as the corporate service staff. So we just recommend that moving forward, you continue to do that salary analysis to make sure you're competitive with your local municipal comparators. If we could move forward. Mutual aid. The Office of the Fire Marshal has produced a mutual aid plan template. It was revised in March of 2023. And it was a guide for municipalities to enter into agreements for assistance for fire protection services. The automatic aid agreements between the municipality of Thames Center and the municipality of Central Elgin be reviewed and reformatted in accordance with the mutual aid template published by the Office of the Fire Marshal. And we recommend that is done by winter of 2025. I'm going to blame that typo of 2024 on my admin support. For the record, it's me. So I just suggest that the timeline for that for the chief would be winter of 2025. We can move forward now to the next slide. Alrighty. So our next observation, number 10, the County of Middlesex Mutual Aid Plan contains all authorizing letters of agreements under bylaws authorizing automatic aid. For automatic aid agreements pertaining to Thames Center, only 2 letters of agreement are contained in the county's plan. So the County of Middlesex has 4 captured. Your municipality has 2. So we just suggest that the letters of automatic aid for the municipality of Thames Center, inclusive of the City of London and the municipality of Biddulph Blanchard Fire Department, should be included in the mutual aid plan. So we suggested that could also be captured by the winter of 2025. So you currently have 2, you just need to add the other 2, and that would meet that recommendation. Alrighty, so this chart here is just to demonstrate the process we went through to evaluate your fire service stations. We wanted to make sure we went through and did an analysis of each facility based on and gave it a statistical a number. And based on those numbers, determine what recommendations we put forward to associate with either renovations, improvements, or replacements. So if we could move forward to the next slide. We'll start with the Dorchester Station. So the Dorchester Station is in need of improvements in the areas of amenities, storage, and maintenance. And vehicle bays, this observation is aligned with the majority of firefighters who reported low rankings in these categories. So what we recommend is the municipality establish a financial plan in 2024 to either rehabilitate the existing station or can plan for the construction of a new fire station. The target date for completion of the rehabilitation or new construction would be on or about 2029. And the financial plan should include the funding parameters such as contributions to the capital reserves from 25 to 2029, development charges, debentures, and possibly fundraising. A building committee, including firefighter participation, be implemented for the purpose of design plans for the rehabilitation or construction. So just to be clear to the mayor and members of council, with the Dorchester station, we believe that you could do renovations to the existing facility. You could expand the existing facility. And right now, there is some immediate recommendations that we would have for the chief as far as some aeration units in the garage, prevent proper ventilation, and some minor capital investments to get some of the firefighter turnout gear removed from the bays where the fire apparatus are. So moving forward by 2029, I would target the municipality. You have two options. You could renovate or expand your existing station, or you could build new. It's obvious that it's a little bit, it'll be a little bit more of a cost savings for the municipality to renovate, but we do believe that the station is in a good state of repair, and it could require some renovations to satisfy the needs of the organization. We could move forth now and to number 12. We found that the Thorndale station is in good operational condition. The only recommendation we have for next year in your capital plan is to consider areas of design space to accommodate your bunker gear and locker space for the firefighters that are outside of the apparatus floor with the vehicles. So other than that, there was no additional recommendations for the station in Thorndale. Can move forward. All right, we've highlighted this issue or this recommendation and observation in red. Based on our assessment, we would, there is an emerging trend within the fire service in the municipal sector for the fleet to include an aerial truck, right? For high angle, not only high angle rescue, but also for dealing with residential apartment buildings, condominiums, but also regular residential buildings under 4 stories. The reason for that is currently the firefighters would need to put a ladder up to try to extinguish the fire from top of the building. What the aerial truck allows you to do is the person would be above the residential facility and pour water down, and it takes the firefighter out of potential harm's way, reduces the overall occupation or the risk to the firefighter. So the one of the things, and then I'm just going to, in a second here, I'm going to ask my colleague Richard Boyce just to talk a little bit about the operational requirements for an aerial truck. But the one thing that we're recommending through our assessment is for the municipality to enter into an agreement with a neighboring municipality to gain access to an aerial truck. And then through the course of a period that the chief and in consultation with the CAO would determine your utilization, right? And we also recommend that you would track not only when the vehicle is called, but also when the vehicle was called, what was unavailable. And then over the course of that period that you select, determine the volume of utilization. And then from there, determine fiscally whether you can carry on with an agreement with another municipality or make the decision to purchase your own. So you do have time around with that decision, but we would recommend that you immediately enter into to an agreement for access to an aerial truck for the safety and security of the firefighters with a neighboring municipality. So Richard, if I could just pass it over to you, sir, just to comment a little bit about the operational component and the benefits of the aerial truck.
Thank you, Blaine. Your worship, traditionally aerials were always thought as for buildings of 5 stories or above. One of the things that's really become prominent at the moment is lightweight construction in the homes And you'll see that in the community risk assessment that the building official is supposed to notify the fire chief. Lightweight construction has changed the homes, the roofs have become thinner, the floors have become thinner, much more susceptible to fire. So it's now a common thing to see an aerial device at a single story or a two-story dwelling to allow the firefighters to access the roof without having to go on the roof. It's really becoming a matter of firefighter safety and becoming much more commonplace. If you watch the news, you'll see a number of subdivision fires in the larger urban area, and there's always an aerial in operation, which was never the case a number of years ago. Blaine has also touched on the fact that there's high angle rescue, there are access to roof issues and other things, but really it's become more of a day-to-day operational item than it's ever been in the past. So it's a changing fire safety world that we're facing, and really this is now becoming a firefighter safety issue more so than an aerial a high reach situation. And furthermore, 100-foot aerial gives the firefighters the ability to be able to reach in from the road and gain access to the roof again without having to ladder it. So it's a changing thought process, and that's how much the fire service has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. Over to you, Blaine.
Great, thank you, Richard. All right, if we can move forward now to recommendation observation 14. So it's recommended the municipality revise the shared service agreement to include an annual fire prevention business plan with the fire chief and the fire prevention officer, agree on the program objectives for the upcoming year, and the annual fire prevention report, detailing the fire prevention officer's efforts to be included in the fire chief's updates to municipal council. So, currently the municipality has entered into a shared service agreement with the municipality of Middlesex Center for the provision of fire prevention and inspection services. And what we're recommending is that there's a business plan developed that shows what locations are subject to inspection each year, that is developed in consultation with the fire chief in advance. And then based on the shared service agreement, fire chief and the firefighters are well aware of what's going to be inspected in what particular year. And then also internally, you can determine and prioritize what locations you would like to be inspected at any given time. What we found right now is that the volume of fire inspections that were being done, statistically, we reference in the report, but there also seems to be limits in the participation of or inclusion, I would say, of the municipality in what locations are being inspected on your behalf. So just greater oversight on that shared service agreement and greater accountability of the external vendor to ensure that they're meeting the expectations of the local fire service. And then we just recommend with that is you continue to review that annually and ensure that the fire inspections and prevention efforts are being conducted on your behalf meet the expectations of the fire service. If we could move forward now. So recommendation 15, we've highlighted this one in red as well. One of the responsibilities of the newly constructed Fire Education Committee is to plan and deliver the fire department's community events and public education opportunities. So we recommend that the development of a planning process for your annual public education program and subsequent year, so you can coordinate and schedule community events and educational opportunities in advance. Prepare and submit the annual report listing all community events and educational opportunities that were completed for inclusion in the fire chief's updates to council. So one of the things that we determined through our analysis is with the two fire stations, they were working, weren't coordinating their efforts as far as public education. And through the Public Education Committee, we believe that that issue will be resolved. And you'll look at it from a municipal perspective, covering the entire public education component for the entire municipality. We could move forward now. Alrighty, recommendation and observation number 16. Although the agreement between the municipality of Thames Center and Middlesex Center contains duties for the fire prevention officer pertaining to public education, there's no reference to these duties in the Public Education Committee's terms of reference. So we're recommending that the committee's terms of reference include identification of the fire prevention officer and as a member of that committee, and also outline the responsibilities of the training committee and consultation that would occur with the fire prevention officer around the inspections that are completed each year. So moving ahead to our final observational recommendation under the master fire plan is the development of key performance indicators for the fire service. And what those performance indicators will cover is the emergency response component, fire prevention, public education, and they're developed and reported to council either on a semi-annual or annual basis. And the one thing that we're recommending is the current data or the software program that captures performance measures for the municipality. You look at either updating to the most current version or you replace it for an alternative. So first thing is you develop standardized key performance indicators. Second one is you determine a software platform that will capture the KPIs that you're looking for. You also need to provide training to your staff to ensure the data is properly being entered into the software, and then have consistency around the quality assurance around what data is being entered to make sure the data that is produced is relevant and value to the planning process. So that is the 17 recommendations from the fire master plan. And now I'm just going to move on quickly to the community risk profile. The community risk profile is mandated by Ontario Regulation 378-18, which includes all municipalities to complete and review the comprehensive community risk assessment. The assessment is crucial in informing decisions about the provision of fire protection services within the municipality. So basically, the community risk profile tells you what is unique to your municipality, what are unique risks beyond the regular provision of fire services, and then based on that, you develop the master fire plan. So the assessment included detailed profiles such as your geographic composition, your building stock, your critical infrastructure, the demographics of the municipality, specific hazards, public safety response initiatives, your community service agencies, the current economic situation within the municipality, your past loss, and event history profiles. So collectively, we take all this data together, we evaluate it and use that to generate our recommendations, the 14 recommendations in the community risk profile, and then use that to make sure that we were consistent and in the development of the master fire plan. We can move forward now to slide 40. And I do understand this is a very long presentation, so I thank everyone for their patience. Okay. So the community risk assessment should be a primary tool for informing the municipality's strategic planning, your budgeting and policy making related to the fire department. It ensures that the fire services are effectively aligned with the community needs and the associated risks. The first recommendation we have is that the Public Works Department would provide advance notice to the fire department and the Fire Communications Center about any planned construction or rehabilitation of roads, bridges, and culverts, facilitating better coordination of emergency planning. So just to make sure that as there's any improvements or new builds within the municipality, you seek guidance from the fire chief or his leadership team around any fire specific risks or concerns and how to mitigate those from the beginning. Moving forward, given the municipality's waterways and railway infrastructure, the municipality of Thames Center Fire Department should consider specialized training for firefighters to meet the NFPA standards for surface water operations and hazardous materials response. Additionally, we recommend a partnership with the railway companies so you could establish incident command structure during any train derailments or spills, in order to ensure that you coordinate any public education on railway safety should also be developed. So making sure that you're working with the local railway companies. So if there is an event, the incident command structure is consistent, practiced in advance, and then can be activated in the event of an emergency. And if we could move forward now to slide 41. Alrighty, so the municipality's building stock includes your residential buildings, your commercial, agricultural, and industrial properties. We recommend that it should be inventoried and mapped geographically. This data should be accessible to the fire and protective services and their communication center during emergencies, which can be achieved through a partnership between the planning department, the GIS staff, and the fire service. So during the course of our project, we work closely with the GIS staff from the municipality. They're incredibly helpful folks. But the one thing, and also in coordination with the county, the data was not readily available for the ability to map your community risks. So one of our recommendations moving forward is the municipality ensures that that information is readily available, and the GIS information reflects the risk to the community, so it can be mapped. So the fire service has situational awareness at all times of any risks within the municipality. Moving forward, so as you see, as we spoke already, but as you see any growth in high density residential buildings, it is recommended to consider purchasing or partnering with another municipality around access to an aerial fire truck for improved emergency access and fire suppression capabilities in elevated places. The current residential construction methods provide reasonable consideration for aerial apparatus. And now when we talk about addressing water flow protection issues is critical, especially in Dorchester and Thorndale. And part of our project is reviewed the water and wastewater master plan from 2019. And we do understand that there's capital investments are needed and planned to ensure adequate water flow protection, particularly in industrial lands and growth areas. Additionally, continuous investment in training and water tanker apparatus and specialized equipment should be prioritized to support the local fire service. We can move forward now into slide 42. So the one thing that we recommend is that the municipality continue to have ongoing discussions with London Middlesex Paramedic Service in consideration of locating a paramedic station in the community area of Thorndale. We want to make sure that there does seem to be a high volume of medical responses from the fire service in that area. So we want to make sure that through the consultation with the paramedic service that you're not subsidizing their responsibility of providing response capable medical services to that area, and they have a plan in place to ensure that there will be paramedics accessible to respond to that location. And pertaining to the fire service fleet, as identified in the asset management plan, we're just suggesting that continue with the asset inventory data review and validation. You formalize a condition and a process to make sure that you're constantly looking at your assets, the condition of your assets. You make a risk-based decision-making process around what is the capital replacement plan for those vehicles based on the need, the budget allocation, and then also on an annual basis, make sure, do you need to adjust that? So one year the capital plan suggested that fire apparatus number 1 needed replaced. You found that the maintenance or there's problems with fire apparatus number 2, that you're constantly review your status of your fleet and make those capital adjustments as appropriate based on the risk assessment that the fire service will conduct. If we could move forward now. On slide 43. To support the expected growth in population and development, the municipality should consider modernization, I guess, of the paramedics, of the fire service, specifically around keeping an eye on your staffing complement, right? The retention and recruitment, making sure you maintain those ratios that we talked about earlier. The fleet, making sure that you're constantly reviewing your fleet, your capital replacement plan, and you do the risk assessment based on the particular apparatus. You consider the capital improvements that we discussed earlier around the stations. And the other thing, as was discussed earlier, is continue to look at modernization of equipment, such as infrared cameras, like the gentleman talked about earlier, drones, any piece of equipment that could possibly eliminate the need for a firefighter to be in a distance where he or she could get injured, and to utilize the benefit of technology. The other component we wanted to touch upon in recommendation number 11, there needs to be a role distinction between the community emergency management coordinator for the municipality and the county community emergency management coordinator. And one of the things that we found during our discussions was Chief Dorkin is the alternate CEMC. But in the event there's a large activation in the municipality of Thames Center, the chief would be providing oversight to the mayor and members of council around the activation and the operation of the EOC, but also he would also have the responsibility to oversee the fire service as well. So there needs to be a little bit, and there seemed to be very clear confusion between whether the emergency operations center and the alternate emergency operations center had the equipment and materials available. So as we interviewed one person, they'd say, yeah, we have everything ready to roll. And we interview the next person, they say, no, we do not. So the only thing we would recommend for that piece is just confirming that you have everything available for your emergency operations center, you're ready to activate. And the key component is everyone knows where the materials are. So if you need to activate the EOC, the process to activate is well established. Recommendation number 12. One thing we just wanted to highlight is the current economic status and social factors that we're seeing across Ontario. And the issue of affordable housing is becoming prevalent in a lot of municipalities. As a result, homelessness and associated encampments are increasing. With that, there is a risk to the firefighters around stuff like propane tanks and other risks. So we just wanted to ensure that fire protection services should continue working with communities, other community service agencies to address responding to emergencies involving people experiencing homelessness, encampments, and marginalized members of the community. So just that recommendation number 12 is primarily to ensure that the health and safety of the firefighters as they respond. Okay, if we can move forward now. All right, we're recommendation 13. So the municipality of Thames Center Fire Department should develop performance measures aligned with public fire protection classification and dwelling protection grades, insurance grading systems for assessing and reporting to council. And the last recommendation we have is that the fire department should review on a current data software to determine if if software meets your data capture requirements for reporting measures such as shoot times, response times, on scene times. As we went through the current Fire Pro software, it is the version needs updated, and also the current setup is it has all fire apparatus arriving at the same time to a fire scene. Where what is required is the ability to find out different components, like, what is your shoot times, what is your response times, what is the duration of the fire service on scene, and which vehicles arrive first. So right now, the software as it stands has very difficult, very limited decision support data available. And the last component is to train designated personnel to consistently report and enter data reflective of estimated property value losses, injuries, and other specialized capture points. So there was a lot of historic information that was secured during the interview process around the knowledge of the fire service professionals. But as far as the capture of the information within the database, it was very limited. So most of the information we secured were basically from historical understanding of previous incidents. Well, that concludes my presentation. And I just would like to extend my appreciation to the firefighters, district chiefs, and all staff who participated in the surveys, the interviews, and the consultations. Also, members of council, as you participated in the survey process. Your insights and feedback have been invaluable to the creation of our proposal here. And it also helped identify the realities of the community and your needs. So we'll now open to any questions from Mayor McMillan or members of council.
Thanks, Mr. Lucas and Mr. Boyce. Very informative. Any questions from the members of council? Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first isn't really a question. I think it's more of an acknowledgement to the municipality regarding your recommendation number 4 in the fire policy. Just encouraging the firefighters to kind of join the one team approach that we implemented a couple weeks ago, really. So I think that will be a really good step in that direction. My question actually pertains to, I guess it would kind of fall under training. With the movement towards more like electric vehicles and the battery storage centers, like, is there any kind of futuristic thinking on training to have the firefighters like prepared for those types of situations?
Do you want to?
Absolutely. I'll field that one in through you, Mayor, to Councillor Crockett. Absolutely, yes. Training. They have already taken several training courses with EVs, hybrids, full electric vehicles, and the problems that do persist from them. It's a problem that is not going away, and we have more investigation to perform and more training to do, which will be ongoing. So yes, to answer that question, we are already in the midst of doing training and will continue to do so.
Perfect, thank you. And I think just the last comment on the mention of the aerial truck is, I do believe our current bylaw is only allows for 4, maybe 6 stories. I think it's 4 here in the municipality. So I did like the proposal to kind of go into a partnership to kind of see what the stats of use are before kind of going down that pathway. So thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Crockett. Any other questions from the members of council? I see Councillor Lockie. Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. I just have a couple questions regarding the aerial trucks. So have we identified which municipalities that are local have one? And I was also really curious, what is the price tag of a aerial truck?
Who likes to field that one?
So through Mayor McMillan to the councillor, we have had consultations with Chief Dorkin around access to the aerial truck locally. But I would like to defer that question to my colleague, Richard Boyce. I know Richard and I have had a lot of conversations around the current cost and the inflationary costs of particular fire apparatus over the last several years. So I think Richard can kind of put a context around the increased cost and the cost of that vehicle.
I think you're muted. If you could take yourself off mute there. Can't hear you.
I think you're on
Richard, is that?
I think Richard is probably afraid to explain to us the cost of the fire apparatus.
Oh, there he goes.
got
Okay,
it.
when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I didn't catch up with the clicker there, so I thought I hit the mute button. So through you to the councillor there, you know, this again is something that is a large ticket item. It's probably in excess of $2 million for this truck, but they are versatile and have other uses. They have fire pumps on board, so you gain a pumper in the process. So you do have a lot of options that come available, but again, it's more for lower level structured fires now than it is for high angle or high rise fires. So it's something there to do. Partnering with a municipality is a good idea to start with because you can always monitor the use. Again, it would come down to something like a fee, a standby fee probably, and then a cost per hour. Because that municipality, whichever you want to talk to, has made a significant investment. You can usually get them once or twice under mutual aid, but after that, you have a demonstrated need for an aerial. So then that makes the municipality move there. So the first step, if you can find a willing partner, do that. I understand, given the size of the municipality, there's a number of options available for the use of an aerial. So again, that would be up to the chief to do his research, talk to his neighbors, see what comes out of it, and then see if there's a viable solution. But you should also someplace in your asset management program pencil one of these vehicles in, because the municipality will grow and you will ultimately need it yourself.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Councillor Heeman?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'd like to thank our consultants and Chief Dorkin and all the volunteer firefighters who put this together. And I think it's in some ways it's refreshing because I think we didn't see too many big ticket capital items, which I think shows and reflects the investments that have been made in keeping our capital assets current. And I do appreciate the on the ground feedback about the need to improve the facilities in Dorchester. I think that we're very appreciative of the new facility in Thorndale, and I could see how we want to get to that equal level. And again, things around communication that Councillor Crockett identified, I think that's in line with the approach being taken across the board, and we want everyone to feel like part of the Thames Center team. And so I think it's refreshing in the sense that there's a lot of good news here too, in terms of the reflected desire for continuous improvement and alignment with key performance indicators. So I think we've got some good information for the coming budgets to put some resources in place so that we can meet these goals.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman. Any other questions? I see Councillor Lockie again. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I do have another question. So this is just regarding the recommendation to expand or modify the building, especially because it referred to bays. Is it because we actually don't have enough bays for the trucks that we have, or is there anticipated that we'll need to have additional vehicles?
Go ahead when you're ready.
Through the mayor to the councillor. So with the, we took the position with our assessment of the Dorchester station of knowing what it costs for a new facility compared to the cost of renovations. So what we're looking at is if you increase your capital infrastructure of your fire apparatus, then you can consider expanding the garage. But primarily right now, the big components is you need some ventilation in the garage. And you also need to move some of the bunker gear, get it out of the garage space. And so right now, the primary renovations that we see are around access for the firefighters is around like storage of their equipment, storage of their bunker gear, maybe some enhancements to their their training room. Primarily though, that if you compare the cost of a new station of roughly around 10 million plus, we think that it would be within good stead for the municipality to consider renovations or enhancements to your existing facility. It's in a good location. It's within response distance to your fire calls. Is within a good spot, and there is room for expansion, considering the land that's adjacent to the facility.
Thank you. Councillor Crockett?
Sorry, just something that you said there kind of sparked train of thought that I had earlier. There was one slide that referred to the calls that excluded the 401. So I'm assuming that these recommendations are kind of excluding that agreement we have along the 401 corridor, or is it kind of inclusive to, or does that really matter? Like, I'm sure you get a lot of the calls for the 401, but
Yeah, so through the mayor to the councillor, through the statistical analysis we did on the call volumes, we took into account the motor vehicle collisions, almost being one of the highest call drivers of the fire service. And the secondary component was the number of fire calls. So when we excluded the calls for that data, we wanted to kind of focus primarily in the report on the fire specific events. So we just took out those things and then kept it separate around vehicle collisions and extrication. Not that there isn't a fire on the 401, and one of the things that we did identify in consultation with the chief is for a firefighter to respond to the 401, it's very risky, right? And there's lots of components they put in place to keep the staff or the firefighters safe. But we do recognize that when the volunteers respond to the 401, they're doing an incredible community service. It is a high risk response zone.
perfect. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Heeman?
Through your worship, just following on the call volume questions, I was wondering, that spike in November, is that just due to changing road conditions and everyone figuring out how to drive in the winter again?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I grew up in St. Mary's, not too far away. So I now live in the GTA in Hamilton, and I'm very thankful that I don't have the same winters that I had growing up. So that spike primarily is weather dependent.
Thank you. I actually have a question. I'm not sure who's best to answer this. I was considering the software. So the software is considerably out of date.
So yeah, in response to the mayor, I may ask Richard to jump in, but in consultation with Chief Dorkin and some feedback from Richard, the software alternative is not a big expense. There is software available now that as a volunteer firefighter was leaving their work location, their home location, they hit a button. The chief can log into a software component and see, I have this number of firefighters on the way to the scene. So there is some technological advancements that for the most part would be cost neutral and also could be absorbed within his current budget. So I'm just going to ask Richard if he would just kind of explain, because I know he is well familiar with the current version of FirePro and also some of the technological advancements with tracking volunteer firefighters.
Great, thank you, Blaine, your worship, to the councilors. There's a number of pieces of software out there. The one that they're referring to about the firefighters carrying is Who's Responding. I believe, Blaine, that is the correct one. There's also an I Am Responding, but they're both similar, which is triggered by dispatch, and it gives the firefighters the location of the fire. It's a tool the fire chief can see the firefighters responding, because they can log in that they're either going to the station or going to the scene or not available. So the fire chief gets a very quick head count as to what's going on with the call. It's interactive. First unit on scene can pin the call for other firefighters to get there. There's GPS tracking. It's a great tool. The number one impediment to it is getting the firefighters to adopt the software technology and taking that few seconds to use the software. I know response and getting to the station is critical, but this is first and foremost. So it's a great tool, but it builds on to what happens afterwards, and that's the FirePro software that you have. It's widely used throughout Ontario. I do know that FirePro is working on some enhancements for logging of times and data coming through. It's like all other softwares. You can buy all different packages, training, prevention, dispatch. But most importantly, you should have your fire dispatch center tied in to the FirePro program, which automatically provides download information to the station chiefs to fill out reports, you get data there. Then you can start to log multi-station responses. So again, it's not a horrific cost to bring it forward. In some modules, the dispatch one, for example, is $1,200 to $1,400 to bring in. So again, it's just like everything else, try to keep it updated and have the chief try to stay abreast of it because everything is changing again so quickly. But the Fire Pro and the Who's Responding are two great apps. There's one out there called Vector Check It. That's for inventories that you can also use. So again, the chief will have his priorities and preferences and to keep you informed of what he's using.
Thanks very much. So to Nick, then would we be okay with an upgrade to that software? And is there any staff required for data coming from that system?
Yes, your mayor. So Richard did a great job of kind of giving it a high level snapshot of what is available out there. Currently, we're using our current software not to its fullest potential. However, we are using it to meet legislative requirements, and our admin support staff are doing a good job at using it. My goals was to, over the next year, or hopefully before our budget cycle, to be able to understand what the program offers completely before I can make justifiable recommendations on switching software. However, where we're at right now compared to what is out there, the ceiling is quite high on workability. Cost is quite minimal.
Thanks very much. And just one other question. Under 6 in the observations, effective fire operations, the fire department should maintain a threshold of 5 officers and 30 firefighters for a total person. How are we doing with personnel in terms of firefighters in the Dorchester station?
Thank you, Mayor. We are currently at 32 out of 35 in Dorchester. And in Thorndale, we are full roster.
So in Dorchester, there's room for 3 more firefighters,
There
do I
is,
understand that
currently.
correctly? Okay, all right, that's good. Thanks very much. Any other questions from council before we move on? All right, seeing none then, we have a recommended motion before us that the master fire plan and community risk assessment as presented by Blaine Lucas and Richard Boyce, 308 Consulting, be received for information. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? All right, thank you. That carries. And then just on this matter too, council's consensus to move forward over to item number 10.2, fire-001-24 master fire plan and community risk assessment on your agenda. And Nick, would you like to speak to this before we consider this? Anyway, a consensus from council? Okay, good. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just to go over again that we're very thankful that this was a council decision to drive this master fire plan forward. And it's given us great insight through our valuable consultants to be able to give us an outside look into our strategy and operations for over the next decade. Without reading the report detail by detail, again, we're very thankful for them to give us that outside look and comprehensive review, I will say, and that I just ask that you receive that as information and that you accept it as we move forward that plan. Thank you.
Okay, then, are there any other questions for Nick on this one? Okay, so then another motion then, that report number fire-001-24 be received for information, which we have done, and that the 2024 to 2034 Thames Center Fire Department Master Fire Plan and Community Risk Assessment final drafts be approved as presented. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Crockett, All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for your attendance here. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Dorkin. So moving on, to item number 8, the adoption of the minutes from the regular council meeting held May 27th, 24, be approved as circulated. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 9, the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. If none are being pulled, then a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Crockett, seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Motion carries. Reports of departments, item number 10 on your agenda. So Director of Community Services and Facilities to present unsolicited proposal from Sleep. Oh, I'm sorry. We took care of that one. Okay. Thank you. You're off the hook, Steve. Fire master plan, we have taken care of that. This seems just too easy here. Okay, let's move to the drainage superintendent to present on item number 10.3, Dundas Street owners petition for drainage works. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So recently, the municipality has received a petition request for drainage works from 5 owners, 5 separate landowners inside the concession to Lot 1 of the former township of West Nisuri. This area has been known for drainage issues over the years. I've responded to many calls. But they've never amounted to any petitions or any actual work going forward to correct those calls. Recently, as April 3rd this year, there was an information meeting held. Owners in this area were invited to ask questions and get walked through the municipal drain process. It's my belief that that meeting has sparked this petition. We now have the ability to help some of these owners. So accepting this petition and appointing an engineer can hopefully lead us to resolving the issues that the owners in this area have had for quite some time. I'll end there and open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Travis. Any questions from the members of council? Councillor Crockett.
I just have one question. So, through your worship, since this runs along a county road, if we decide to proceed with things here, would costs be split with the county or would this all lay on the residents?
Through your worship, it's very likely the county would have some assessments
Okay.
to this. Most of the north part of their road could utilize the drain. We really wouldn't know the answer entirely until we have an on-site meeting to determine exactly what the landowners want to see done in their area there.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Councillor Heyman.
So this would just encompass the north side of the road, not the south side, or for benefit?
Through you, Mayor. As far as I see, yes. There's an outside chance that if we can't get it to drain to the east, it may have to go south across the road. I don't anticipate that. However, I don't want to completely rule that out. We have to get some proper surveying in the area to determine that.
Because the pond's to the south as well.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Yeah, and that is something we're aware of. I have never received any complaints from owners from the south side of the road. They are riparian right owners, so I don't think they would themselves require the drain.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Heyman. Any other questions from council? One from me. Does this include the gas station? Is he one of the?
Mayor, we will be inviting the gas station
Okay.
owner to the on-site meeting. They have not signed on to this
Okay.
petition.
All right. Okay, if there are no other questions from council, we have a motion before us on your agenda. That report number PWDR-005-24 of the Drainage Superintendent dated June the 10th of 24 concerning requests received by 5 properties for a request for new drainage works be received for information, and that the petition submitted by 5 properties under Section 4 of the Drainage Act RSO 1990 for new drainage works in relation to properties located concession 2, lot 1, former township of West Missouri be received and adopted, and that Mr. M.P. DeVos of Spreed Associates be appointed as the engineer to investigate and prepare the necessary drainage report. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Thanks very much. Item number 4, LS-009-24, delegation of powers and duties policy update. Our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Barrick, go ahead.
That's great, Mayor. Thank you so much. You have before you a delegation of authority bylaw update being recommended. Originally, the county was intended to present here this evening, which you were advised earlier. They've had to withdraw. The reason that's relevant is because the municipal act states that municipalities are required to adopt and maintain a policy such as this. The maintain part, we've reviewed it and noticed some gaps earlier on, I'd say probably last year. We knew, though, that the county was updating its delegation authority bylaw. So the municipality of Thames Center, we were waiting for the county to conclude its good work. They've spent a lot of time and they had it legally reviewed and then subsequently approved by county council. And we've updated, we're recommending to update the Thames Center version that you have before you tonight, predominantly based on the work of the county. And so neither the county is here this evening, which is okay, because if there are any questions, they could assist, as well as our clerk is off. So I'm happy to speak to this report and answer any questions. But it is predominantly a housekeeping piece to update and fill in the gaps with respect to the delegation of authority where they were missing. Upon approval, if council decides to approve, that will provide better clarity for council, staff, and the public in terms of policy matters that can be done by staff versus which ones should be done by council. In any event, you have both the current and the draft recommendation before you, and happy to take any questions as well. The directors are present. Any areas in their purview, they're happy to speak to as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Barrick. Does council have questions on anything on this report? Well, seeing none then, I don't have any questions either. So at this point, we'll ask for a mover and a seconder that report number LA-009 be received for information and that council approve the attached draft delegation of power and duties chart, Appendix B, and that staff be directed to bring forward a bylaw at the next regular council meeting to adopt the revised delegation of powers and duties policy, which would repeal bylaw 54-2021 and replace Appendix A to policy CP-A-7.1. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Reports of committees. Items listed under the reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So may I have a mover and a seconder unless there are any other comments? Yes, you may. What number?
Sorry, can we just pull 11.3?
Certainly. Would you like to speak to something on that?
Yeah, so I just wanted kind of more of a verbal update regarding the first motion that was put forward in regards to the, involvement into the PCP program. And if, I'm going to put Tom on the spot here. Tom wants to kind of just explain what our involvement would look like in this and what the one-time funding fee would go towards.
So I'm gonna, may I respond?
Certainly may.
Thank you, your worship. I'm gonna try to remember my David Barrick spiel as much as possible. But I believe the committee opted to opted in favor of the program because it would unlock a lot of additional funds. So by doing the one-time assessment, and then I think there were, when this came forward previously and it was sent back to committee, there was the brag program, and the committee is not recommending continuing with that because that would be an ongoing 20,000 annually, whereas this is a one-time 25,000, and it would provide us with a single baseline assessment of mainly of our facilities and areas for improvement. So we could get a greater understanding of our building efficiencies that there's so cost savings that could be identified, and also through that process, identify additional grant opportunities, and there's pools of funding that require this baseline assessment. So
Perfect. Thanks. That was good.
You learned well. Okay, any other questions then before we move on? All right then. So in that particular case, a mover and a seconder for the committee reports. Councillor Lockie and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Carried. Item number 12, Mayor's Report. Since my last report, I've been pleased to attend the following events over and above regularly scheduled meetings, etc. Wednesday, May the 5th, Kettle Creek Conservation Authority meeting, followed by the Seniors Volunteer Appreciation Event and afternoon tea. Deputy Mayor Smybert and I had a wonderful opportunity to sit down with some pretty amazing volunteers and recognize several for their many contributions to the community. Later that evening, the Deputy Mayor and myself, members of our staff, joined Councillor Danielle Lockie of Ward 2 for the last of our mini town halls this season, where a number of our residents came out to talk about their concerns, mainly regarding infrastructure in this case. Tuesday, April the 28th, I attended the County Library Advisory Board meeting, followed by a County Council meeting in the afternoon. And then I had the pleasure of being in attendance to meet and hear from Michael Landsberg of Sicknock Week as he addressed a large audience on the issues of mental health and his own personal struggles. My sincere thanks to Sally Taylor and her group for organizing this very special event in the community. And I have heard nothing but positive feedback, and my thanks to the municipality for supporting this so well. May 30th and 31st, we saw a meeting of SCORE, South Central Ontario Regional Economic Development, and a tour of the site of the new battery plant in St. Thomas. A huge property. I was rather gobsmacked by the amount of land. And then that followed with a meeting of MPP Rob Flack concerning a number of municipal matters. Later that evening, I had the pleasure to attend a reception to honor the volunteers who make up the Dorchester Agricultural Society. Thursday, June the 6th, I, along with CAO Barrett, Councillor Tom Heeman, and our communications coordinator, Shannon Zelstra, were on hand to present a check to the board of the Missouri Manor in Thorndale. Saturday, June the 8th, I think I made a mistake there. It was a distinct honor to join with MPP Flack in order to celebrate the 32nd annual ceremonial review of the 201 Squadron Royal Air Canadian Air Cadets and present some awards to very deserving people. As an interesting note, just right around COVID, they had lost almost all of their, with the exception of about 9 cadets, and they're now up to over 30. So they've done quite well, and it was a really good show. And there is no unfinished motion, business or notices of motion that I'm aware of. And any new business? Do you have some, Tom?
No, I just think, I think you were referring to the Agriculture Society instead of the
was
Missouri
referring to-
Mayor,
I made a mistake on that one.
and I wasn't there.
Yes, so it was to the Agricultural Society and it was at Heman's. Your sister was present, Bridget Heman. My apologies. Anything? Nothing? Anything?
I was gonna add, but I was gonna see if Danielle was gonna add something.
Mean about the event this weekend?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, friendly reminder that this is the weekend for the large Stevenson Camp fundraiser that Ned Burwell had presented to us. So start Saturday 10 to 6 and then Sunday I believe 10 to 4. And they've got a lot going on. It's free and bring the kids. It'll be amazing time. Encourage everybody to join.
And I would echo that sentiment because that camp does such amazing work and they're so in need of funds. So get out there and spend some money.
I was gonna say it's a whole day filled of events too, because after the Stevenson's camp, you can go to Dorchester for the video dance party for the Dream Park as well.
There's lots going on around here, lots. No new business, so bylaws, a mover and a seconder that bylaws 43-2024 through 47-2024 be adopted as presented. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is their upcoming meeting schedule. Monday, June 24th at 5 p.m. here in the chambers, and that'll be followed by another one on Monday, July the 15th, also at 5 p.m. here in the chambers. A motion for adjournment, please. Councillor Heman and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Thank you. That carries.